Hello, my name is Barry Idowitz. I'm the Director of Education Labs at XtremeLabs, and today we are doing a special webinar with our subject matter expert, Chris Cassigna. Am I saying that right?
That's right, yep.
All right, thanks, Chris. And Chris will be speaking on Copilot and providing some insight, some information that'll be helpful for this. This recording will be this session is being recorded and will be available later on. And then otherwise, I'll put my contact information in the chat. And then if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat as things go along, and I'll present them to Chris, and we'll address them as possible. So with that, I'll hand that over to Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Brilliant. Thanks, Barry. Welcome to the session, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us, whether it's this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. We're very welcome to have you in the session. And today's session is all about Copilot. No doubt that you've probably been hearing Copilot a lot over the past few months. I have been in the same boat, Copilot this, Copilot that. And I have learnt from being involved in many pilot groups for the Copilot for Microsoft 365 product, but it's not a normal solution. There are a lot of misinterpretations about Copilot. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what it can deliver for people. I was literally on a call with a lady in Singapore saying, can Copilot do all this for me? And I said, whether you're trying to do this in Microsoft Excel, there's a big gap between what you know about Copilot and what you expect it to do. So there is going to be a big demand for learning and adoption services around Copilot. But if you're not overly familiar with Copilot, why don't I take the opportunity to lead into this webinar and show you a little bit about Copilot so that you can feel a little bit more comfortable with what the tool is, what the benefits are, and what are the different flavors of Copilot. So let me introduce myself to you. Barry was very kind to give me an introduction. I'll just kind of complete that. So I'm a delivery and digital content lead for the EMEA at Combined Knowledge. Now, Combined Knowledge has been making courseware for 21 years. And about 2 years ago, our training company based in the UK was bought by a company called MavenPoint. So MavenPoint is based in Singapore, and they effectively are an educator technology company. So they build solutions like learning management systems and training portals to deliver training experiences to their customers. And of course, as content creators, where I myself have 14 years of experience in learning and adoption, I've taught classes, I'm an author of course content, I've even worked on the Microsoft step-by-step book series, I create video content, I edit that content. Effectively, MavenPoint was very impressed with our rich selection of content that they wanted us involved in their organization. So you'll see a lot of MavenPoint branding on the slides as we're presenting, and MavenPoint is partnered with XtremeLabs. The rich course materials that we create are sold through XtremeLabs in their marketplace. So a little bit of information just down here. This is my contact information. I'll present it again at the end of the session as well, along with some information that I'll share from Barry's side of things as well, just so that right at the end, you've got the information and resources that relate to today's session as well. Again, this is being recorded, so we'll share that recording at the once it's available as well via our normal channels. So, what is this webinar about? Oh, hello, Jose from Angola. Oh, that's good. We're getting a good range of people coming in for the session. I'm chiming in from the UK. It's about 8 p.m. from where I am at the moment, so it'll be interesting to kind of hear where people are and what time zones we're in. This webinar is about Copilot, of course, Microsoft's AI assistant. And what I wanted to say is that there's a big focus on investment. As you probably know, the most premium license for Copilot is quite a costly endeavor, and businesses are trying to work out that return of investment from a small selection of pilot groups that will effectively explore that technology. And I've been involved in several of these pilot groups and want to share my experiences with you around Copilot, but also explain to you what Copilot is as we go through this session as well. So as mentioned, for what we learn about Copilot today, I'm a teacher. I'm very passionate about teaching Microsoft technology, and you'll certainly have that rub off on you in today's session. So you'll see my style of teaching, but I'm also an author. And like I say, the content that we author around these topics is available in XtremeLabs Marketplace. And we'll have a look at some of those resources later on to support learning and adoption around Copilot. Let's really push back for a second. You can't talk about Copilot without actually endeavoring to talk about what is artificial intelligence. Effectively, it is a digital solution capable of designing content and decision making. And we always think of AI. And I was in Singapore recently, and we were at a Future of Learning Academy, and they were talking about how they teach students about AI. And they teach students about AI by watching films about AI, like The Matrix and iRobot. And I thought that was really interesting. You know, when we all think about AI, we think about, something like Terminator and Skynet, and it's all very exciting. But actually, AI is completely integrated into your experience these days. If you're fortunate enough to have a self-driving car like a Tesla, that's considered robotics and AI. If you use Siri or Alexa, that's natural language AI. If you effectively have Netflix promoting TV shows to you, it's using AI algorithms to try and work out what is going to be your next hot show. And of course, things like computer vision, like facial recognition. Again, this classroom of the future that I visited scans students' faces as they come into the classroom, and that becomes the class register. So they scan in, it checks that they're supposed to be in the class, lets them in, and ticks them off as attending the course. That's all AI. And effectively, what we're looking at now is the fact that AI is starting to become as common as things like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, these tools that we use all the time. Well, Microsoft Copilot is envisaged in the future to be as essential as spell check. An interesting concept, I know, but bear in mind, I don't see this being incorrect. If someone took spell check away from you, and this did happen to a colleague of mine, Teams broke a little bit and he couldn't use spell check, and his messages were awful, and he wasn't noticing that he wasn't spell checking, and he did get it fixed. But we've been working on the pilots for Copilot in different organizations, and sometimes we take people's licenses away and give them to other people if they're not really using the license, and they get really upset and they say, no, it's actually really important. I'm sorry I didn't use it today, but it's actually really helpful. It's almost as the name suggests, an assistant. It's there to help you draft, there to support you with your day-to-day operations. The thing is, how do you use Copilot? It's effectively not a Copilot for each of your tools, like for Windows or for Edge or for Bing, but Copilot can be considered a layer that Microsoft applications connect to. It can do really cool things like summarize information. It could create new content. It can create images. I'm a bit of an artist. I like to paint and draw, but actually I normally go to a colleague to build artwork that I use in my presentations. Now I just ask Copilot to create artwork for me. It could do things like sentiment analysis. If you're about to send something out and you're thinking, was this email a bit harsh? Ask Copilot. It'll let you know. It'll even give you some suggestions. It could do text translations. It can do more. It could plan your weekend if you really wanted it to. But people always say to me, oh, I can't use Copilot. We don't have it. Don't you? Copilot's free. It's a website. You can go to https://copilot.microsoft.com, and you can effectively start using it. You could bookmark that and actually have a really luxurious Copilot experience without really spending a penny. There's also a smartphone app that you can use as well, which you can get on Android or iOS devices so that you can leverage Copilot on the go. I know that effectively a lot of us have Siri integration and stuff like that on our devices anyway, which Copilot's trying to work in. But effectively, if you wanted to try Copilot right now, you could go directly to copilot.microsoft.com and give it a go. Now, you can sign into that with different accounts as well. If I take you across to this website, you'll notice that I'm signed into https://copilot.microsoft.com. Now, notice at the top right of the screen that I'm not actually signed in at the moment. I could sign in. There are multiple benefits that come from signing into Copilot. Effectively, if you sign in, you have a history. That sounds bad, but your history of chat messages are kept. So if you have a conversation with Copilot and you did it last week and you're thinking, oh, I need to have that conversation again to get the previous conversation flowing again, actually you could go back to a previous conversation and look at the results. So you don't have to repeat those efforts. The other thing about signing in is you can sign in with a personal account. So that could be like a Hotmail, I'm showing my age here, an Outlook or .com or a live account. If you're signing in with a Microsoft account, then you get that kind of history tracker. But if you sign in with a work account, well, then actually this is really powerful. When you sign into this website with a work account, quite often people will want to ask questions that are business related, so business context. Now, Copilot is a large language model and it learns. So if you go to Copilot and ask it a question and start to talk about competitors and all of this kind of information that's more sensitive to your business, effectively that's going to train Microsoft's large language model, unless you sign in with a business account. If you sign in with a business account, it will protect your information. You'll actually see, if we go back to my slides, when you're signed in with a business account, this is my combined knowledge email account, you get a little protected badge to the right-hand side of your sign-in menu. And what that means is that the information that you're using to generate your responses, which are known as prompts in Copilot, you write prompts to send information to Copilot to get a response. As you write a prompt and send that, that's not used to train Microsoft's public large language model. Your personal accounts that are signed in or your anonymous accounts that are signed in, i.e. you're not signed in, that will train the large language model. But if you do sign in with a Microsoft 365 business account, then it will protect that information. Same for school accounts, etc. So we've been talking to different customers and we're saying, please sign in. If you are going to use this and you are using it for business context, sign in and it will protect your information. So that's a really important a discussion to have when you're using Copilot is, are you signed in? Okay, I'm in. What can I do with Copilot? Now, I quite often find that when I ask people about Copilot, what do you want to do? Quite often people won't come up with, I'll ask it what the weather is like today, or I'll see what events are on in my local area. These kind of things are very trivial. And, what would be really good is things that save us time. So when I speak to people about what could potentially save you time, they'll start to say, oh, for example, I've got a report, it's a few thousand words and or characters or something like that, and I need to create a brief summary, maybe bullet point it. I normally have to read and get the major points and then write them up as bullet points, and that can take me about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I send it out as an email. If it could do that for me, it could potentially over the course of a week probably save me about an hour. Well, Copilot could potentially do that for us. But let's have a quick look at the user interface before we get it doing work for us. This user interface looks very simplified, and that's credit to Microsoft, but there's a few things to bear in mind. So first of all, we've already mentioned the sign-in menu at the top right of the screen. We also have different Copilots that we can use. This is the Copilot, which is like the chat-based Copilot. You've also got a Copilot for Designer. This is where you can actually build visual images. So you could describe something. And you don't necessarily have to switch to Designer to do that. You could actually ask for an image. I could say an image of an XtremeLabs webinar. You've always got to wonder what you'll get, but let's be more specific. create an image of an XtremeLab webinar being watched by attendees online. I bet you're curious, what's it actually going to create for us? Well, let's submit that. So I didn't have to switch to Designer to generate a picture. Actually, it's just explaining that these Copilots are available. I can switch to that user interface if I wanted to, but it will actually allow me to do this. Now, it says you'll have to sign in to create images for users. One of the reasons for that is that you can only create a set number of images per day. I think it's 10 images per day if you're signed in with a normal account. But if you might have a Microsoft for 365 Copilot license, I think that goes up to about 100 images generated a day, which is quite a lot of credits, especially if you work in marketing. So it's not happy with creating the image unless I sign in. Let's sign in with a work account and see how we get on. So let's do Alex. Give that a few seconds. And you can know my location. So again, I've just signed in as my account, and it's just given me that little green badge just at the top right hand corner of the screen there, which is quite cool. And what we'll also do is I might just quickly pop out a separate window. Let's use Chrome. And we'll go to the same website. Okay, so I just wanted to sort of highlight there, signing in has protected my prompts in that respect. And I also had to sign in to potentially leverage the artwork solution. So again, I could kind of go back in and say, create a, in fact, no, we don't have it anymore. So create a image of an XtremeLabs webinar being watched by an audience online, and let's see what we get back from that. Now, whilst it's thinking and generating, I just wanted to, this is a fun thing about AI. I can help you able to create images. But what fun to do on a live demonstration. Okay, well, we will endeavor to do that maybe shortly. Maybe I'll use a personal account and we'll get some information churning. But for now, we'll just continue on with the user interface. So effectively, let me just scroll down a little bit here. So we've got on the left-hand side of the screen, the new topic button. So when you generate prompts in Copilot and get a response, the context of what you've asked and what you get back can be used to generate more accurate responses. So, for example, if you ask about booking a holiday to Singapore and finding flights as an example, because you've mentioned Singapore, then it will effectively ask you, if you asked, could you find me some local hotels, then it would start to look for hotels in Singapore. If you wanted to wipe the slate clean and basically start afresh, you could potentially click new topic. And what new topic will do is it will just basically ignore what's come before. And when you start your conversation, it will start afresh. It won't use any of the previous conversations as context. You've also got a couple of examples across the top of the screen that you can use to kind of start to learn how to prompt with Copilot. There's also a couple of other things that you might see as well. So you've got the opportunity when signed in to choose a conversation style. So there's airing between more creative, so kind of more free-flowing conversation, to more precise, which is going to be kind of a little bit more scientific, a little bit more accurate, a little bit more concise, really. So in regards to how your prompts are responded to, you can actually change between a more kind of creative or precise manner. Normally it sort of sits in the middle at balanced, but you can potentially toggle these type of responses that you're going to receive. There's also the opportunity to use your microphone, and also you can upload pictures for Copilot to visually identify content. And that could be quite useful. I found the photo of a hotel and I thought, where is this hotel? I uploaded it to Copilot and said, where is this building? And it actually did a kind of like a reverse image search and found out what the building was, provided me with information about it and where it was, and I thought that was quite interesting. I've also sent it pictures of animals just to see if it could understand that my puppy is a Welsh Corgi, and it tends to understand that it's a dog and kind of errs towards a particular breed. Hasn't worked out it's a Welsh Corgi yet, but it's still a puppy, so it probably doesn't have the full Corgi features yet, unfortunately. So let's put it to the test. So what we're going to do is we're going to effectively build a prompt. So prompts typically start off with a command, so what you're trying to achieve. So I've received some meeting notes from my meeting and I've been asked to summarize it in an email. Again, I say this takes me time, and this meeting is all about updating our mobile phone contracts or our cell phone contracts. So I want to summarize those meeting notes. It may ask for a little, I may want to suggest more context. If I suggest who the meeting notes are for, Copilot can tailor the response. If I say it's for an executive, it might provide a more professional tone if I haven't chosen a particular style of response. I can say where the focus is. I can say focus on costs, because that's the bottom line at the end of the day. And I can say what kind of language to use. So this kind of prompt, the more you articulate your expectations, the better your response is going to be. Now, one thing to consider, effectively prompts can be up to 500 words or 4,000 characters. So if you've got an essay and you want Copilot to summarize it, this is not really going to work too effectively for you. You might need to have a license for Copilot for Microsoft 365 that can deal with larger documents, although not too large apparently, because if you have like a 450-page document, it might get stuck creating a summary of such a large document. Microsoft will hopefully improve the functionality of that in the future, but at the moment there are limitations on how much Copilot can process in regards to delivering summaries. So what we'll do, I've got the meeting notes in my slides, so I'm just going to bring those in. And here we go. So these are my meeting notes. This is what my colleague sent to me this afternoon, and I've just been asked to summarize it for my boss. So I'm just going to submit that and see what we get back. Now you'll notice at any point you can click stop responding. If you wanted to change your mind and get Copilot to do something different, you can click stop responding and then maybe switch tactics to something else. So let's scroll up and see what we got. So let's create a concise meeting summary for an executive focusing on cost considerations. Here are the key points. So contract renewal and provider switching. Our mobile phone contracts are up for renewal this month. We received options from O2, but we're considering switching to EE due to potential cost savings. We'll propose these cost savings to O2 to explore whether they can match or improve their offer. It has provided me with some overviews of budget, which is quite nice. That's what I wanted, and what the kind of next points were. So if normally it would take me a long time to convert that into something more concise, this has effectively saved me time. And that's one of the key things about Copilot, is saving people time. Now, one thing I'll just perhaps put into the chat is there is a big focus on what they call prompt skills. So I'm just going to put a link in the chat. Now, prompt skills refers to how you talk to Copilot. So this particular document that Microsoft has put together is a really clear one that if you are running a campaign at the moment of Copilot, maybe within your organization, or maybe you're trying to get people to use Copilot, this is a really good couple of pages. So it just kind of shows you about that structure. So what I did is earlier, I kind of color coded the structure of my prompt earlier. So if I go back here, You'll notice I've used similar colors. The reason for that is that I was trying to go for Microsoft's goal, context, source, and expectations, just to kind of show you that I kind of try to adopt it. And when you kind of see this breakdown, you'll sometimes stop going to Copilot, do this for me, and you'll actually start to realize that the more context you provide, the better the results you're going to get back. There's other things to consider as well. So the kind of things that you can do, helpful hints, but this is a really cool little document to kind of keep at your side to support you with writing Copilot prompts. What can you do? Well, you've got a really cool little chat assistant there that can help you with very general things, but it's completely orphaned from your Microsoft 365 tenant. It doesn't know about your tasks. It doesn't know about your emails. It doesn't know about your chats from your colleagues. You know, let's say you're off for 2 weeks. Imagine the chaos in your stead. You want to get back from work and then you think, how am I going to catch up for those 2 weeks? I'd love for someone to go in and summarize all of my 2 weeks updates for me. Free Copilot doesn't integrate with your Microsoft 365 tenant. It won't do that. To be able to take the Copilot experience into the workplace, that's where the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license is a real benefit. So that can allow you to, if your meetings are being transcribed or recorded, you can summarize meetings, ask questions about meetings. You can do some amazing things. If you're late for a meeting, that's not a problem with Copilot. You turn up late for a meeting, you sneak in and you say, hey, Copilot, what's happened in this meeting so far? And it will get you up to date. And you think, cool, I'm all caught up. That's a really powerful feature. I tell you what, when someone nominates me to take notes, I hate that. I hate being the person that takes the meeting minutes. It happens every week. It's someone different. When it comes around to me, I'm like, sure, fine, I'll do it. Not anymore. I use my Copilot license. I transcribe the meeting and then get it to automatically. In fact, it automatically generates AI minutes for you. If you need anything specific, you can just chat and it will grab that information from the transcript. You can even ask about the sentiment of the meeting. Was it moody? Were people happy? Were there any unanswered questions? There's some really cool stuff that license can give you. In your Outlook, you can ask it to write your emails for you. If you get an email sent to you, you could say, reply to this email and explain to them that I will complete that task. And it will look at the previous email and generate your response for you. You could even do sentiment analysis on emails. You can see how your emails are going to be perceived by the audience and see ways that you can positively change your emails. And that has really taught me a few things about writing emails. I thought I was okay writing emails after so many years of doing it, but Copilot's actually made me realize that there are things that I can do to come across better and give people more credit for what their involvement has been worth in the process. And as an author, having Copilot generate presentations from files or from topics has been incredibly powerful. And it actually, if you use Copilot from a branded deck, if you have a PowerPoint presentation that has a slide master in it, what it generates in that deck will actually use your organization's branding as well. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You can get Copilot, as we mentioned, in Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint, but you can also get it in Excel. You can get it in OneNote. You can get it in Microsoft Word. You get writer's block. You just ask Copilot to give you some inspiration or maybe write the next part of your document for you to just keep that pace going. Again, as an author, writing the Copilot course, it was quite challenging not to use Copilot to write the Copilot course. On a few occasions, I did get it to kind of create summaries of my document to kind of top and tail topics, but yeah, it's an interesting one. So there's so many additional benefits that Copilot for Microsoft 365 license gives you, and this is where businesses are really trying to investigate what the value is of those licenses. I can tell you right now, it's really cool, but really there's an absolute ton of challenges with my Copilot for Microsoft 365. So the first thing that really gets me is there's no trial. There's no way of trialing my Copilot for Microsoft 365 to see what it's all about. In fact, it's a monthly cost, but you have to pay for the year up front. So I think it's like $300 or something like that. It's quite a bit of money to pay up front per person. And obviously, if you've got people that are thinking, well, we don't want to buy our organization licenses, pay a year's amount up front just to see, 10% of people use it. It's a huge amount of investment. What people will commonly do is someone in the organization will set up a pilot. The awkward thing is that it's normally called a co-pilot pilot, and that's just sounds terrible, but that's what they're called. And a co-pilot pilot will effectively identify either a spread of people or maybe a particular group of people from the same department and pay for and deploy Copilot licenses to those individuals to effectively test and experience what Copilot is going to offer those people. Now, what I found from these Copilot pilots is that they must really be led into with some training. You give someone a Copilot license and they say, oh, cool, Copilot's just going to do all my work for me, and it doesn't meet their expectations. They go, oh, it didn't do what I wanted it to. I didn't use it after that. It kind of upset me. So I found that when I met up with people that got the license weeks later and they hadn't used it, I say, why aren't you using it? And they say, well, it didn't do this. And I was like, oh, it can't do that, but it could do this. And when you start to show them how and where and why it works, then they're like, oh, well, actually, that does make sense. Actually, I'm going to start using it again. I can see some potential. So we must teach people as part of these pilots how Copilot works. I know that sounds very sensible, but some people aren't doing that. Now, the success of that pilot will determine whether the company goes any further in its Copilot license purchasing. And one of the biggest issues with that is telemetry. So there's limited telemetry in Microsoft 365 for understanding how well people are using the products. Specifically, you can't really identify in Microsoft telemetry who's doing what. That kind of data protection is quite sensitive. But some telemetry systems like the tyGraph solution. tyGraph are a company that have created a telemetry solution that gives you really detailed understanding of how Copilot is being adopted to the point where you can understand which people are using which particular features. Now, you might think, well, that's a bit of an invasion of privacy. You're not really working out more than what they're actually using Copilot for. And actually, that's incredibly important. If someone's not using Copilot and they go through 6 weeks of your Copilot pilot without using the product, effectively you're not learning anything from them. But if you've got someone who's incredibly keen, you can take their license off the first person and give them to the second person and then get some value off that license. And the Copilot pilots that I've been involved with, there's been quite a lot of license switching for people who just tried it once to people that were really keen, didn't get in the original pilot group, but really think that there's a lot of value to it. So having really good telemetry is actually really important for a pilot as well. So in regards to the pilot, let's say that it was successful and they decide to go with more Copilot licenses. What is the kind of adoption that we're going to get from Copilot across a larger audience of people? You need to have effectively for adoption multiple approaches. People like to learn in different ways. Some people would like to have face-to-face or online training. Other people would probably want to read guides or a book about Copilot. Some people might want on-demand learning. So there needs to be a range of different ways to support a business with the adoption of a new technology. And as you can understand, training has been kind of part of your world and part of your experiences in different organizations for a very long period of time. So there's always lots of different ways to train people. The other thing is create communities around the technology as well. So maybe have an engaged community or a team in Microsoft Teams where people can chat and talk about the technology. We often use those teams or those communities to run what we call office hours. So office hours are where we check in with people that have Copilot licenses and bring them together and say, how are you using it? The discussions where people talk about the ways they use it and the benefits will hopefully inspire other people to use it and share their experiences as well. So definitely get people talking about Copilot, even if you have just a 30-minute meeting to bring people who have Copilot licenses together to share that value. It really kind of helps people understand how the business is using it. I think that's always the biggest challenge. People always expect for you to tell them how they should use the technology. As trainers, we don't understand how you work. We can show you the technology. The idea is you'd have the aptitude to connect how you work to the technology. But for Copilot, there seems to be an incredible emphasis on people understanding how the technology should work for them. So Microsoft are creating lots of literature about Copilot for education, Copilot for finance, trying to create lots of use cases. But effectively, these office hours are really good for creating use cases because there are people that work in your business talking about how they're using the tool. And then what we can do is build a playbook from that. If you effectively start to document these use cases, you can create almost like a glossary of ways that your organization is using this technology. We're actually working with Microsoft at the moment about creating a playbook for Copilot for education at the moment. So that's just a big book about how teachers and heads of departments are leveraging Copilot in their particular schools. And again, like anything, if you're going for the long run, you need to make sure that your content stays up to date. If you've got videos that you created when Copilot was first released, I guarantee they're going to be out of date within about 6 months. If you created guides, they're probably out of date already. Microsoft love to change the user interfaces of their products very frequently. So how can XtremeLabs help you in that regard? Well, effectively, one of the things that XtremeLabs offers, along with many other courses, is they have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 Super User course. This Super User course effectively covers right from the start, the introduction of AI, Copilot, using it for free, using a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, using it alongside Word, PowerPoint, Excel, but giving you the opportunity to have practical exercises that you can use the technology alongside the course manual itself. As well as that, it goes into kind of more advanced topics as well. So Copilot will advance into using Copilot in collaborative spaces, so with things like Planner, Teams, Whiteboard, Stream. It goes into Power Platform, so how you can use Copilot with Power Pages, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. If you tried it with these tools, you actually don't need a license to use it with the Power Platform. With Power BI, you do need a premium capacity workspace, but you can actually generate a workflow using natural language. You can ask Power Apps to design an app for you. It's very cool to get started. And then we even talk about Copilot Studio, creating your own chatbot experiences using Copilot, and even the AI builder, where you can build and train your own AI models to maybe extract data from documents and turn that into a table, or maybe identify content in pictures. So there's lots of applications of the Microsoft Copilot experience within an enterprise, or within a commercial setting, or within an educational setting. So this course is effectively one thing that you can purchase from the marketplace. The other thing is that we at Combined Knowledge and Maven Point, we actually teach these courses as well. So where you can get the courseware from XtremeLabs, there will be instructors around to teach this content. If you actually want to learn how to teach this content yourself, you can either buy the manual and study and learn to teach it, or you could actually come to us and effectively we can train the trainer. So if you are the training resource that you want to upskill to deliver this course, XtremeLabs have the manuals. We can teach you how to teach this course and give you the confidence to go into a classroom and teach these skills. Now, you might be thinking, oh, 2 days, Chris, that's a lot. It's a framework. You pick what you want from it. I've quite infrequently teach the full course because people aren't normally interested in things like Power Platform and Copilot Studio and AI Builder. They're more interested in things like Word, PowerPoint, Excel. In fact, I'm working with a university in the UK next week, and we're actually taking a few modules out of this course and focusing on some of the most essential parts of the Copilot license. So it could be anything from a half-day course to a 90-minute webinar. The important thing is that this manual provides you with the resources, and if someone wants to take their knowledge a bit further, they have a really powerful course manual that they can use for that. It also, these coursewares also include what you need to deliver the content as well. So if you are an instructor, we'll provide you with the slides that go alongside this training course as well. So there's Copilot, there's also other combined knowledge courses that are being sold through XtremeLabs as well, anything from Power BI to SharePoint. So definitely check that out. I've popped a link in the slide that will take you to that information. Let me just pop that in the chat as well. Sharing lots of links with you today. There we go. Oh my goodness. Let me try that again. I just pasted it and turned into the world's largest text. There we go. So that's the link to the course manual on XtremeLabs. There's a couple of other things as well. So this manual will enable educators or people that even just want to learn themselves about Copilot. It gives you all of those essential skills to be successful in Copilot. But as we mentioned, we can help as well. We can train trainers. That's what we do. We're specialists. We've been doing this for so many years now. So if you had a skilled workforce that you wanted to upskill, again, we could come in and support you with that with our manuals provided by XtremeLabs. And we've also got learn on demand as well. Sometimes when an organization is so large and we effectively can teach maybe about 30 students a day in half-day sessions, to get through an organization of thousands, it can take a long time to run a face-to-face or online training campaign. At that point, there'll be people who have been trained, and there'll be people who won't be trained for weeks, and they're kind of missing out on the technology. So to strike while the iron is hot, what we often do is we have a training campaign where we'll teach people Copilot skills using our course manuals, but we'll also do things like on-demand learning as well. We have a training solution at Combined Knowledge which offers 1,000 premium Microsoft 365 training videos, including content on Copilot for Microsoft 365 as well. This could be integrated into your learning management systems. It could be integrated into the app launcher in Microsoft 365. It can be integrated into your intranet. It can be added to SharePoint site web parts. It can go into Teams. Effectively, this is an incredibly adaptable tool to either give people a portal that they can learn from, or they can effectively integrate learning paths into areas of high footfall within your Microsoft 365 environment. Effectively, each video is about sort of 3 to 7 minutes of a learning topic. We'll teach you essential skills, and the range of products that we cover are very extensive. If there's a Microsoft 365 application, even things that are new like Clipchamp, we've created content for that so that people can learn those skills on demand and get back to work more effectively without having to kind of wait a long time to be trained or to have a session with a knowledgeable person to upskill on that content. I will provide some information about that shortly. I'll put the links in the chat, but we're kind of coming up to our 40-minute mark, and we did say that this webinar is going to be about 40 minutes long, so I want to make sure I stay within my time limits. So what have we talked about so far? So from my experience, Copilot is very exciting. It's very much a hot topic. Copilot can offer a huge amount of opportunity to businesses to intelligently scale and become more efficient. I think that's the thing that people are most excited about. But that return on investment is really important. It's going to start small and it's going to get big. And adoption is one of the keys to success. So remember that XtremeLabs has an incredible wealth of content in its marketplace. Core manuals that are used to upskill and provide people with a resource that is regularly updated. That's the great thing about these courses at XtremeLabs. Our manual that we provide through XtremeLabs, if we update it, your digital copy updates immediately. So it will evolve with your experiences using Microsoft Copilot as well. So if you want to go discover more about XtremeLabs, we can visit XtremeLabs.io. I'll put that link in the chat as well. And Barry might have some links that he'll contribute towards the end too. Let me just pop that one in first. So that's the link to XtremeLabs. Also, you can contact XtremeLabs using sales@XtremeLabs.io. If you have any questions about the course materials and lab environments that are provided by XtremeLabs, of course, having lab environments to complement your courseware is the complete experience. And additionally, if you are interested in things like Train the Trainer, having our specialists teach you how to deliver these courses, or maybe deploying an on-demand learning system of over 1,000 Microsoft 365 learning videos into an organization to give them on-demand learning support in the tools where they're using them, you can have a look at the website combinedknowledge.com. That's our website, and that will provide you with more information on our on-demand learning tool, which I'll put into the chat just now. Okay, I think the last slide is just a thank you and a Q&A. So what I'll do is I'll just say if there are any questions, or I might let Barry just jump in just to see if there's anything he wanted to tag on to the end.